In this video, we'll look at 10 celebs who will still be languishing behind bars in the year 2100. Michael Jace. He was an up-and-comer in the world of Californian primetime television. With his strong presence and striking demeanor, he was recognizable on the screen and easy to remember. He had the makings of star power. Michael Andrew Jace got his start on an episode of Law & Order in 1992, and from there continued to steadily move up in the world of television acting. He has appeared as various aliens in the sci-fi hit Star Trek Deep Space Nine, and even got some prominent roles in television movies. He played boxer Mitch Green in the HBO TV movie Tyson, and even acted in the Fox TV movie Michael Jordan, An American Hero, as Michael Jordan himself. On the big screen, things were progressing well. His most recognizable role on the silver screen could arguably be the Black Panther leader in the movie Forrest Gump, where he did all his scenes opposite Tom Hanks in the Academy Award-winning film. Other than that, he was also making appearances in other major Hollywood films like The Replacements, The Great White Hype, Boogie Nights, and Planet of the Apes, the Tim Burton version. Most recently in his acting career, his rising star got him the regular role of Officer Julian Lowe on FX's The Shield. He even had a recurring role in Southland. With a steady career, things were looking up for Michael Jace, the newest working force on television. But considering his roles as a lawyer and a police officer, you'd think he'd have a better understanding of the law. Too bad that art doesn't always imitate life. In his personal life, Michael Jace was married to April. They had 3 children. April Jace was a professional athlete and ran in 100-meter relays. Late at night on May 19, 2014, Michael Jace called 911, saying to the operator, "I shot my wife." When the police arrived on the scene, they found April shot dead from several gunshot wounds to the legs. As the investigation revealed, Michael had a troubled history with his wife and specifically chose to shoot her in the legs because he wanted her to feel the pain. It was done with malice. Despite that grisly fact, Jace's lawyers argued he only wanted to hurt his wife, not kill her, which is why he was only charged with second-degree murder. In 2016, he was sentenced to 40 years to life in prison. Be sure to stick to the end to see the D-list celebrity spending a considerable 160 years in jail for a police car chase. If you thought that Michael Jace story was crazy, wait till you hear this next one. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out on more amazing videos. Skylar Deleon. Ever heard of the name? Probably not, for a lot of reasons. First of all, her acting resume is pretty thin, and there's a chance it may not even exist. Skylar Deleon was born John Jacobson Jr. and grew up in Southern California. While there, she worked in several television commercials and at age 14 was even an extra in the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, or so they say. In fact, there is no evidence that she appeared on the show or that she were even credited on the list of extras. Deleon claims the role was uncredited. Unfortunately, it wasn't for their acting chops that they'll be remembered for, but rather for what they did for money. In 2004, Thomas Hawks and his wife Jackie were a pair of retirees enjoying their retirement years. They had purchased a yacht called the Well-Deserved, which acted as their home. However, to live closer to their grandchildren and family, they had planned on selling the yacht and moving inland. This is how they came across Skylar Deleon, who, along with her wife Jennifer, asked to purchase the yacht. They took it out for a cruise on November 15, 2004. It was the last time anybody saw Thomas or Jackie Hawks alive. After a series of investigations and hot tips, authorities arrested Deleon and their accomplices, Alonzo McCain and John Fitzgerald Kennedy. They were all charged with the murder of the Hawks. Authorities painted Deleon as the mastermind who intended to kill the retired couple and steal their credit information and remove their funds from their accounts. Although Skylar Deleon initially claimed innocence, when the case went to trial in front of a jury, their lawyers suddenly confessed guilt to all of Deleon's actions. They claimed Deleon was fully aware of their guilt and was only pushing for a trial to make their case that they should not receive the death penalty. But as the case wound up, that's exactly what they got: a death sentence in 2009. As of this video, Deleon remains alive and incarcerated, waiting on death row. Will Hayden. It's not always about murder, but that sure doesn't make it any better. William Michael Hayden grew up in a poor and troubled life in Louisiana and found great enjoyment in firearms. At 18, he joined the Marines, serving for 6 years before being discharged with the rank of sergeant. But it was after he returned from his service that his fame took off. After years of work in various jobs, his passion for guns led him to being a firearms dealer. Selling various types of weapons gave him notoriety as an expert in specialized firearm builds, which caught the eye of producers for the Discovery Channel. Only a few signatures later, Will Hayden was the star of Sons of Guns, a reality TV show which focused on gun culture and unique weapons. It made him a national star across the country. Then it all fell apart. In August 2014, Will Hayden was charged with molestation of a juvenile. He claimed the allegations were false and came from the girl's mother, a jilted ex-girlfriend. But after interviewing the child, police decided she provided credible evidence, which resulted in Hayden's arrest. But that was only the beginning. After the accusation, Will Hayden's daughter came out of the shadows and revealed that Hayden raped her as well, years earlier when she was 12 years old. Suffice to say, the Discovery Channel canceled Sons of Guns. Will Hayden was found guilty of 2 counts of aggravated rape and 1 count of forcible rape. He was sentenced to 2 consecutive life sentences. Ryan Grantham. Ryan Grantham was a rising star and struggling actor in British Columbia, Canada. He lucked out when he got his start in the 2010 film adaptation of Diary of a Wimpy Kid, playing one of the main character's classmates. He continued to get small roles in films and shows that came to the Canadian West Coast to be produced on the cheap. Eventually, he was even cast as Jeffrey Augustine in the hit teen drama Riverdale. His acting skills and his baby-faced good looks helped to solidify him as a potential new acting force to be reckoned with. But behind his bright star lay a dark side, a very dark side. Outside of acting, Ryan Grantham spent his time on the dark web, following alt-right political views and conspiracy theories. Eventually, in a moment of intense emotion, Grantham grabbed the family rifle and shot his mother, Barbara Waite, while she was playing piano. As if that was bad enough, it didn't end there. He then filmed a GoPro video of himself confessing to the murder. He then collected various guns and Molotov cocktails into his car, planning to drive to the Canadian capital city of Ottawa with the intent of murdering the Prime Minister. Part of the way, he decided the trip may have been too ambitious, so he decided to turn around and go to Simon Fraser University in Vancouver with the intent of starting a shooting spree. Thankfully, he decided to turn himself into the police instead. After hearing about his sinister intentions, a judge trying his case gave him the minimum automatic sentence for second-degree murder: life imprisonment. War Machine. Don't get us wrong, this man did some horrible things. Still, there's something fascinating about somebody whose actual real name is War Machine. Born Jonathan Paul Copenhaver, his claim to acting fame is limited to a few films. However, in the world of mixed martial arts, he is arguably far more renowned. After a lifetime of professional fighting, he ended up on the roster of Season 6 of The Ultimate Fighter, where he was first noticed as a rising star in the world of martial arts. It was also at this time that his nickname got him into legal trouble with another wrestler in a competing organization with a similar handle. So, to avoid further issues about using a stage name, Copenhaver simply had his real name legally changed to War Machine. He became a rising star in the UFC and started a lucrative financial career as a UFC fighter, earning quite a name for himself.
Physically, War Machine, he could be a problem for anybody. But I'll tell you, mentally, he's definitely got some issues.
Unfortunately, he was also known as a man who held some pretty extreme views, and as a result, he was released from several of his fighting contracts. But those extreme views would never have been as bad if they weren't backed up by a hot temper. After a failed relationship with Christy Mack, He tracked down his now ex-girlfriend and her new boyfriend in Mac's Las Vegas home. After beating and threatening the boyfriend to not call the police, Machine turned on Mac. Eventually, with his back turned, she escaped him and ran to a neighbor, begging them to call the police. War Machine was on the run for a full week, but stupidly kept posting self-pitying tweets online, which reportedly made it very easy for the police to track his IP location. While in holding, awaiting his trial, he needed to be placed on suicide watch after a failed attempt. War Machine was sentenced to life in prison for committing 29 felonies, including kidnapping and sexual assault with a weapon. After a lifetime of acting like a big, viral, strong man, his reputation ended with a whimper. KAALAN Walker. He has a baby-faced look about him, but make no mistake, this man was a predator without any remorse. KAALAN Walker was a young man with a hard-working reputation. Aside from being a struggling actor, he was also an up-and-coming rapper, releasing his EP, The Intermission, in 2017. But most people who didn't think of themselves as rap fans would likely have known him for his appearances on screen. His first feature appearance was in the movie Kings, starring Halle Berry and Daniel Craig. Not a bad way to start a career. After that, it was only a few extra roles, including a 2-episode arc in the television series In Contempt, and a role in the modern film remake of the classic blaxploitation Superfly. Quick success must have gone to Walker's head because he was not afraid of showing himself off as a celebrity whenever he could. On social media platforms like Twitter, he would regularly introduce himself to aspiring young women, usually struggling actresses and models, as KAALAN Walker from Superfly. And it certainly worked. KAALAN Walker would tell women he could help their careers and was willing to introduce them to new opportunities for roles and photo shoots if they agreed to meet him in person. The women were usually told they were going to meet directors and photographers, but they were all deceived. Starting in 2013, investigators began to notice a string of rapes and assaults, which could all be traced to phony offers on social media. Eventually, the writing was on the wall. KAALAN Walker was a sexual predator who lured women. When he was finally arrested and brought to trial, many of his victims spoke out, and the world knew just how much damage he had done. After the case had been presented, the judge had to make it clear that KAALAN Walker was a sexual predator without remorse, who lured women with full knowledge of what he was doing. He was sentenced to 50 years to life in prison for his actions. He also had to register as a sex offender for the rest of his life. Young QC. He was an aspiring rapper. In the Chicago scene, he was becoming one of the best-known voices on the street. He had a small legion of fans eager to hang on to every lyric of his. His life seemed perfect, which is part of why this tale of murder was so offensive to anybody who heard it. His life really was perfect. His real name was Kwame Wilson, and he was raised by his mother, Yolanda Holmes. Those who knew him would even say Yolanda raised him a little too well, meaning that he was a bit spoiled. His mother bought him clothes, jewelry, and even a Mustang. He wanted for nothing, and yet he wanted more. In 2013, young QC hired a professional killer named Eugene Spencer to murder his mother. The assassin shot her in her home before having to beat up and knock out Yolanda's boyfriend when he tried to intervene. Once it was all over, QC still went into her bank account and withdrew thousands and thousands of dollars. His lawyer would later argue that he gave this money out to his fans, and while that's partly true, he also used much of that money to add gull-wing doors to his Mustang. You know, the same Mustang his mama got him. Suffice to say, this kid was sentenced to 99 years to life for orchestrating the murder of his mother. The assassin, by the way, got 100 years. C. Murder. This one starts to get a little tricky. Many people think that this crime never happened, and perhaps there wouldn't be so much doubt if the man behind it didn't pick such an obvious stage persona like C. Murder. Born Corey Miller, C. Murder was a rising star in the world of hip-hop in the mid-1990s. First on the record label owned by his brother, Percy Robert Miller Sr., better known to rap fans as Master P. On his brother's No Limit Records label, he became a rap sensation, both with the rap supergroup True and his solo projects. In 1998, he released his most successful album, Life or Death, which went platinum. In the world of acting, he also began to find his footing, though not with as much success as with his rapping. For the most part, he performed either supporting or cameo roles in several films starring rappers and other black celebrities, with most of those films being produced by his brother, Master P. More than half of the films he appeared in went directly to video. Still, it was an honest day's work for the rising star. On January 12, 2022, Steve Thomas, a C Murder fan, was brutally beaten and killed in a popular Louisiana nightclub. C Murder was charged with the crime and convicted. He is currently serving a life sentence in a Louisiana prison. But that's not where the story ends. Long after the conviction, there were far too many accusations to ignore. The NAACP got involved, launching an investigation into the crime, and learning that some of the jurors in the trial were violently pressured into changing their verdict to a guilty one to end the trial swiftly. Many of the witnesses who testified against C Murder also said they were pressured by police to give testimony that would have incarcerated him, or else they would get arrested and held for much smaller crimes the police held over their heads. But even if the new information turns out to be true, various higher courts have already chosen to stick to the original conviction. At least for the time being, C Murder isn't going anywhere, which doesn't seem to be putting a damper on his career. While awaiting trial, he recorded and released 3 albums. During his incarceration, he mixed and released 5 more. Brian McGee. Brian Michael McGee is known for little more than being one of the more gruesome murderers on this list. It's awkward to think that at one point he was known as a rising star in pro wrestling. Professionally referred to as the future DT Porter, he signed a contract with World Wrestling Entertainment, WWE, in 2010. He became a staple in Florida house shows and quickly rose as a popular name in wrestling entertainment. His contract was abruptly canceled without much explanation in 2012, but he was still famous as a WWE wrestler when his reputation took a nosedive the following year. In 2013, he was at a social function at the apartment of an ex-girlfriend, Bianca McGaughey, when they began to get into a heated argument. Things escalated until finally they reached a boiling point. In front of many witnesses, McGee stabbed his girlfriend, killing her. And in a pure act of depravity, he even took a photo of her bloody arm. Suffice to say, he fled and led the police on a harrowing car chase until he crashed his car and was promptly arrested. Thanks to the eyewitness testimony of everyone else at the party, the judge assured that Brian McGee would be going away for life. Ryan Stone. Ryan Stone is a common name, so don't get this one confused with up-and-coming actor Ryan Stone, who plays roles in I'm on Fire, West Virginia Stories, and The Send-Off. And don't get him confused with ice hockey player Ryan Stone, who played for the Calgary Flames. And certainly don't get him confused with Dr. Ryan Stone, the character portrayed by Sandra Bullock in Gravity. No, this Ryan Stone doesn't deserve any accolades. He's just a carjacker with no luck on his side and a history of drug-related outstanding warrants. Case in point, Ryan Stone stole a van from a gas station in 2014. Perhaps he just wanted to steal a cheap car. There was just one problem. This car still had a passenger. Namely, the car owner's 4-year-old was still in the back seat. Now officially a kidnapper, an Amber Alert was issued and the van was located quickly, which led to an hour-long car chase involving several counties, masses of chasing police cars, and a few helicopters. In time, the car was abandoned and the criminal tried to get away on foot. Of course, he was caught, and the 4-year-old, though shaken, came out unharmed. For kidnapping and car stealing, Ryan Stone was sentenced to 160 years in 2015. Let's just hope the other Ryan Stones of the world don't hear about this. Click here to see 19 celebrities currently rotting in jail and the reasons why. See you there.